Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Choda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I am reporting for duty to my Ignition Time community. I'll give you a quick update of where things stand right now because a lot of new information has come to light because the president supposedly changed his position, changed his approach. You can even call it a reversal in his approach towards stimulus last night. Here's where things stand. At 2:48 p.m. yesterday, the president announced that he was rejecting what the Democrats wanted, which was, in his words, $2.4 trillion for poorly run democratic states. I'll actually break that down for you in more detail in the next video because I'm going to follow up this video with a much more detailed video breaking down everything that you need to know about this situation. So the president essentially called off negotiations and instructed his representatives, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, to stop speaking with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Now, both House Speaker Pelosi and U.S. Treasury Secretary Mnuchin had a call scheduled at 3:30 p.m. East Coast time yesterday, and as far as my understanding goes, that call did not take place. But here's the important part: as soon as the president said that, the stock market dropped. The president got a lot of blowback from senators, from Republican senators, some like Susan Collins from within his own party. Although there were some Republicans who said, the president should have done this a long time ago. And so that's what happened right around 2, 3 p.m. East Coast time yesterday. However, at 9:54 p.m. East Coast time yesterday, the president tweeted, the House and Senate should immediately approve $25 billion for airline payroll support. Now, by the way, in case you're wondering, why does the president keep talking about airlines? Why does the White House Chief of Staff Meadows keep talking about airlines? Why does House Speaker Pelosi keep talking about airlines? I'll discuss that in more detail in the next video. There is actually a political calculus to this, so wait for the next video. It's going to be even more detailed than this. And so the president said, $135 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program for small businesses. And both of these will be fully paid for with unused funds from the CARES Act. That's what the president is saying. And the president said, have this money, I will sign now. This is what the president tweeted last night. And the president also tweeted, if I am sent a standalone bill for stimulus checks, $1,200, they will go out to our great people immediately. I am ready to sign right now. Are you listening, Nancy? And the president also tagged Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. The president tagged White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Kevin McCarthy, House Speaker Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer in those messages. So all of this happened at right around 9:54 p.m. last night. That's East Coast time. And again, the president suggested that Congress should pass additional relief piecemeal. Now, it looks like the president has changed his strategy, and the president has a piecemeal approach strategy. Now, it's also quite possible that the president had this strategy before he decided to call off talks in the afternoon yesterday. If you're a fan of President Trump, you'll say, oh, this is so uncanny. This is the art of the deal. This is a negotiating tactic. In case you're wondering why the president isn't simply passing a series of executive orders, it's because money needs to be appropriated by Congress. Executive orders are inherently limited in their scope, especially in a situation like this. If executive orders were possible, the president would have done that already by now. So the president does need the House and the Senate to come together in order to be able to pass more stimulus, in order to be able to reallocate money from the CARES Act. You have to remember, if CARES Act money was, let's say, allocated to businesses and it's unused, which, by the way, is the case, hundreds of billions of dollars of CARES Act money actually unused, then it is Congress that now has to pass a law saying, okay, now this money can be used for something else, and then the president signs that, and then that bill becomes law. So the president can't just snap his fingers and do an executive order to reallocate money. He needs Congress to do it. So in case you're watching channels that say, oh, there's an executive order coming, there's this, that, and the other, that's not how things work. That's not how things work. On this channel, you'll get the truth. I'm not going to give you false hope. I'm going to give you a healthy dose of optimism. Let me be clear, because I am an optimist. I want my viewers and subscribers to get help, but I'm going to give you reality, and I'm going to give you the honest truth. So the president essentially is pushing for a piecemeal approach. Is a piecemeal approach likely to happen? Are the Democrats likely to say yes or no? Again, I'm going to cover this in a lot more detail. This video is intended to be a quick update because this is, new news in the morning that you need to be aware about. What has been the reaction to the president's decision yesterday from leaders from within his own party, from business leaders, from his opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden? What happened to the stock market, and how did that lead to the president's essentially modified course, if you will, towards the evening. Again, this could have been part of an overall strategy. We don't know. But I'll cover all that in more detail in the next video, because this video is intended to be a quick update. If this is a quick update, you can imagine the next update to be to be more, to have more content in it. So you'll see the next update on our channel shortly. But basically, where things stand right now, it's that I just want to be clear. Republicans have been suggesting standalone bills, piecemeal legislation, for months. And the Democrats have been opposing that. In fact, I feel confident that House Speaker Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell will be out the door if piecemeal legislation is proposed. And this is now setting up to be a situation where the president can point fingers at the Democrats and the Democrats can point fingers at the president. The president will say, hey, they're blocking your stimulus checks. And Speaker Pelosi and the Democrats will say, where have you been all along? Since May, we've been asking for stimulus checks, unemployment benefits. We've been negotiating in good faith. And then the president will say, no, you've been stringing us along. Unfortunately, this blame game doesn't help us because it's toxic. What we need is money in the bank now. We need quick cash now. I know my viewers and subscribers have bills to pay. I know my viewers and subscribers need to keep the lights on. I know my viewers and subscribers need to keep food, need to put food on the table. So this has been a rather unusual week for the president. I just want to make sure you guys understand what exactly is going on in the big picture. The president tested positive for the pandemic and he landed in Walter Reed Medical Center. The president's doctor provided a series of rather cryptic and unusual news conferences where he wasn't able to answer questions correctly, where he provided some information and then backtracked on it, and where he essentially refused to answer certain questions, presumably because of an order from, because Navy Commander Sean Conley presumably got an order from the Commander-in-Chief, President Trump. And of course there's doctor-patient confidentiality, but then again there are individuals who argue, hey, we need to know, this is our president, so this is an elected official, so we need to know. So it's up to you what you feel about that. For me, it's not about the red or the blue. It's about the red, white, and blue. I'm not Democrat. I'm not Republican. I'm American. So the president also took a ride around Walter Reed Medical Center. A lot of individuals thought that was irresponsible, and some individuals felt that that was a show of strength. So there you have that. And then the president left the hospital much sooner than anyone anticipated. And the president did make a point of taking his mask off at the White House. And the president also told people that this pandemic should not dominate their lives. As you know, well over 200,000 people have died. 1,000 people a day are dying. The president did post on Facebook that for most people, COVID wasn't as lethal as the flu, and that post was struck down by Facebook because it violated Facebook policies. At least 17 aides of the president, including top aides Stephen Miller, not to mention the White House press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, I hope I pronounced her name right. They were all diagnosed. They all tested positive for COVID. What a week this has been. The Joint Chiefs have quarantined. And I just want to be clear about the status of the stimulus negotiations. The two sides were always close to $1 trillion apart. That that wasn't, that's not news. But the two sides, House Speaker Pelosi and U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, were getting closer. They were getting closer, and they were working on the language and the semantics. Was House Speaker Pelosi stringing along the administration, and did House Speaker Pelosi have no intention of doing a deal? I have some information about that, and I will give you that information in the next video. So please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you enable notifications. And if you thought this update was detailed, wait for a more detailed update in the next video, including my prediction about what is likely to happen with stimulus and how it's tied to the election in the next video, because I have a lot of notes. Believe it or not, this video is intended to be a quick overview, and the next video includes all my notes, all my thoughts. So definitely please make sure you subscribe, you enable notifications, because I'm going to film the next video and get it over to my editing team. This video is meant to be a quick update. And so the two sides have always been $1 trillion apart. The Republicans were not going to do a $2 trillion bill. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell had indicated that, hey, I'm not going to do a $2 trillion bill. That never changed. And even though U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and House Speaker Pelosi were talking, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was never going to support a $2+ trillion bill. The 1.6 was about as far as they could get, and House Speaker Pelosi clearly wanted more, clearly wanted a tweaking of the language. And one final thing. President Trump decided to come in, from the hospital and decided to take charge of the situation and called off the negotiations, because there's only one person who speaks for President Trump, and that is President Trump. I will also share with you that I'll talk to you in detail about why the president did what he did, what the repercussions were, why the president seemingly backtracked, or maybe that was part of the president's original strategy. And then I'll talk to you about what I think is likely to happen next in stimulus negotiations. So please make sure you subscribe, you enable notifications. That's going to be the next video that's coming up on our channel. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Choda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, please check out my video. You'll learn a little bit more about me, what my journey has been like, who I am, and why you should listen to me. Also, please subscribe. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks. Bye. I have to switch this off. Let me switch it off.